Oh, welcome in to the Channel Tennessee podcast. I'm your host, Rainey, alongside my good friend, Austin Brown. It is January the 12th, 2025. The Vols rebound after a loss to Florida. Get it? Rebound because basketball and stuff. They took care of Texas 74 to 70 over the weekend. Rick Barnes has some comments about Taz Lanier after the game concluded. We're 15 years removed from Lane Kiffin leaving Tennessee. The national championship is set. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. And I want to propose a question. Did Arkansas hit the panic button on John Calipari?
I hired him.
Yeah. But here we are, my friend. Let's run through these topics. Let's have a good podcast. NFL playoffs are on as we speak. We are live as we speak. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
It's all good over here in the eastern side of Tennessee. It's all good. Man, I was worried last night because you really didn't want to lose back-to-back games. That would have been a bad spot. Like, you're undefeated. You're the last undefeated team in all of the country. And then if you lose, obviously the way we lost to Florida is about as bad as you can lose. That it was the single worst loss in terms of points in the Rick Barnes era at Tennessee. And I think the third worst loss ever by a number one team. And then you go up against Texas Longhorns, who aren't that good. It's not like a super, it's not a top 10 win or nothing like that. But they definitely have the ability to beat you in their arena. And
they seem like they couldn't miss a freaking shot.
Yeah.
They were those fadeaways on the side of the baseline, those fadeaways, they look like Kobe Bryant out there the whole time.
Made you want to pull your hair out.
Did. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, how does every time the team plays this, there's like a player or something that it's like a record-breaking something. This player is just draining everything possible. It hasn't made like a consecutive amount of shots in a row. I think it was like 7 or 8 in a row. They couldn't miss. And it was crazy. It's like, and I get like we're top 5 team in the country, number 1 as we speak right now, but that'll change here. We'll probably fall to number 3 or 4 or something like that. But
humiliating. What lows we have sunk to.
I know.
God
bless
America.
But what I'm saying is like when you're that highly ranked, you got to target your back and you're getting everyone's best freaking performance, best shot. They're going to try to scrap with you everything.
Did you know that Texas had never beaten an AP number 1 team in the country before? Because Tom Hart only said that, I think, 1,700 times on the broadcast.
He said that about 1,700 times, and he also said about 1,700 times, Taz Lanier is the number 1 scorer in the SEC. He kept repeating it over and over and over again. It's like, buddy, we know. I didn't notice until last night how much that man repeats himself.
He really does. He has some PowerPoint, or he has some, subject points, and he just hammers those all day long. I guess we got
all Lulu in here commenting 3 or 4 ? Laughing face, should be 12 or 14. That's our biggest troll that pops in from time to time.
I've got a lot of that comment. This is really a top 10 or top 15 team. This isn't a top 5 team.
Nope.
Okay, look around college basketball. Give me 5 teams that are definitely better than Tennessee. You can go Auburn, you can go Duke, you can maybe go Iowa State. That's about it. That's the only 3 teams you can find that. I mean, hell, Alabama has lost to Purdue, and I forget their other loss. It wasn't that great. Our 1 loss to Florida is not that bad, and we have our wins stack up pretty well. I think we're still top 5 in net.
I mean, our 1 loss to Florida was pretty bad, but I haven't seen a performance that bad ever since in the history of me watching Tennessee basketball. So Mississippi State, Lulu says again, Mississippi State's really good, dude. Mississippi State is a damn good team.
They're not better than Tennessee.
I don't think they're better. I don't think they're better either. But they scare me when we play them. But they come here, so I don't think I'm worried because it seems like whenever we play at Thompson Boling Arena, people have a really hard time beating us. So
we'll never play that bad defense, I don't think, as they saw from Kentucky and so on. Yeah, that's the difference maker between teams like that. We're gonna just give you defense that's way different than those kind of teams.
Well, and you know how Tennessee's a good team is you have a guy in Dubar who comes off the bench and wins that game for Tennessee. He's not the sole reason, but he's the biggest reason we won that game because that's what makes Tennessee so good. And people could, say that, we're top 10, top 15. No, this team is definitely in the top 5, top 6 in the country because when you have people that can come off the bench like that, like Dubar, that can make that big of an impact. That's what makes the teams really good. So
he won you that game. You don't win that game without him. He willed you. And he's a guy that the staff isn't too crazy about. He does get lost on defense. There's no getting around that. He gets lost on defense. But on offense, from what he can give you, sometimes, you got to give that guy a little more minutes, especially if you're getting a night from like Meshack where he's missing easy layups, and Igor where he has no confidence to take any shots whatsoever. That drove me nuts all night. Here's what Igor would do. He made his first 3 of the game. His first 3 went down. And then the rest of the night, he'd do this. He get the ball, he's open. He'd do a pump fake, and then he gets covered once he did the pump fake because he let time happen and they would cover him. So he passed it away. And it drove me insane all night. I don't know what – that guy's in his own head.
I don't even – he did a pump fake. He was at a 3-point line, and there was no one around him. And I screamed at the top. Like, I just jumped out of my chair and was like, what are you doing? He pump faked to no one.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one standing in front of him. He pump faked to air. And I'm like, what are you doing? I do want to get to the whole what Rick Barnes said about Chaz Lanier, because Rick Barnes came out after the game and said, which I've never seen a coach do this before, was it's kind of different. But he says, we're not paying you to not take shots. But here's my issue with Rick Barnes saying that is it's just not Igor Milicic that is pump faking shots. It's the whole team. And I'm sorry, but that's not
that quote was direct toward Chaz.
Well, I know that. I know it is. But the whole team passes up good shots. It's not just him. So I've said this 100 times. That has to be coaching if everyone's doing it, not just one player. Like, that has to be taught. I'm sorry. You can disagree with me, but when everyone's doing it, how? Okay, so everyone's doing it. And you're not the whole team.
He literally said, this is what he said, that play was designed for Chaz to take that shot, and that he passed it away. So he pulled him out of the game. And he said, I'm not paying you to not take shots.
No, let's go back. Hang on. Let's go back to what
he's never.
I'm not talking about
where he's gone on a guy for taking too many shots.
I'm not talking about that. Well, here's the thing about that too as well. And I'm not bashing Rick Barnes. I'm just saying what I see on TV, what happens in the game. If he takes more shots and misses them, guess what's happening? He's getting yanked. In 2 seconds, he's getting yanked. That's what Rick Barnes does.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He never Igor missed, I think, 8 threes against Illinois. He was in the entire game.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let me go back to what I said. When the whole team is doing the pump fake and the passing up shots, that has got to be coached. Not every player is sitting there pump faking. The whole team does it, man. Zakai does it. Chaz does it. Igor does it. Gainey, it might be the only one that just has no care in the world. He's just going to do whatever he wants because he's really good. But the whole team, when there's a pattern of them doing the same thing, like, you can't tell me that's not taught. Like, there's no one in the country. There's no one in the country that does that. That every player on their team pump fakes before they shoot, because there was so many opportunities.
They do teach that, but also it's not meant to always do it.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying though. It's the last 2 games have looked more like old school Rick Barnes ball than it has this season early on. They still come out the W, which is they didn't really get conservative towards the end. They played their asses off. They said, you know what, we're better than you. We're going to take control. We're going to win this game, and they did. And you saw with Dubar, because Dubar comes right up the lane and gets a rebound and just slams it down. it just reminded me of like a Admiral Schofield type play where
he
he
does remind me a little of Admiral.
It
You're
does.
right. That is a weird comparison. Like not really stylistically, but it's a little bit like, yeah, maybe it is a little stylistically. It's slight, but yeah, I see the similarities. You're right. That's a good comp.
Yeah, and it's he's got the aggressiveness to him. He's got the aggressiveness to him, like Admiral does. So if we can get that from Dubar this season, that adds another element to this team. And the team's I wouldn't say they're going through a slump or not. They had a horrible game. They went to a tough Texas environment. They took care of business. They did what they had to do to get the win. And no one's going to judge. That's the thing about college basketball. No one judges you on how sloppy a win is. Like you win. Like just basketball is basketball. Anybody can have a shooter's chance of winning. But they just did what they had to do. It was a good ending to the game. And the maturity of Tennessee, that's kind of where it comes from. Like last game against Florida, they just threw a dud. They came out, couldn't hit a thing, couldn't hit a shot, couldn't hit a broadside of a freaking barn. It was the worst performance I've ever seen. They came out.
I think by the numbers, it was the worst performance of the century. In terms of, this is the first game ever in the last 20-something years that a team has shot under 20% or under 30% from two, and under 30% from three, and under 60% from the free throw line. That was the first time ever all three of those happened at the same time in 25 years or something like that. It was insane how bad that performance was.
DR wasn't allowed. DR wasn't able to jump on the podcast tonight, but he sends in a comment and he asks the question: does our lack of depth put a damper on your expectations for this team? I'll answer first, and you can answer after I kind of throw this out there. We just kind of talked about it, Austin, the Dubar thing. If Dubar can come off the bench, Gainey can come off the bench. We don't have a whole lot of depth. That is correct. But looking around the country, a lot of teams don't have a whole lot of depth. I mean, Auburn has a pretty good amount of depth on their squad. But if you can get minutes like that from Dubar, and you can have games where Gainey just shines and goes off, does it worry me that we can't have like a 3 guys come in and 3 guys go out like we used to? A little. But again, if you can get the minutes that you got from Dubar, the minutes you can get from Gainey, the minutes you can get from Phillips coming in, and you kind of have more depth than you think you do when you start naming all those people. When you Phillips, Dubar, Gainey, and you Akpara had a hell of a game last night. Where did that come from? That guy was like a beast. It was like something snapped into his head.
Since this SEC play started, if you really just take out the Florida game for everyone, the Arkansas and the Texas games are his best games of the season. He's really transformed his game. And okay, does the lack of depth worry me? Yeah, it does. Because here's the thing. I think we're okay if we stay where we're at. One more injury, we are so screwed.
Yeah.
When Zakai, I was freaking out texting you. You called me over dramatic, but I'm like, dude, if Zakai is out for the year, the season's over, basically, because we have no one that can make up that kind of production. It's a tough spot. But if you can just take this team as it is, keep them healthy, and take them in the postseason, I am not worried because you have enough right now. You have just enough. You have 8 players that can give you something, and then Bishop Boswell can come in, maybe give you 3 or 4 minutes on it some nights, I guess.
Fireballs.
The ceiling for this team is unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Fireballs chimes in. If our offense was outstanding in the first 6, I guess he means like our players or
first 6 minutes.
I'm confused with that. Explain what you mean. Outstanding in the first 6, I wouldn't worry about depth, but it's not. So explain what the first 6 means, and we'll get back to answering that question.
Was outstanding
in the first 6. So, I mean, I don't know what that means.
I guess he means
first 6 players. He says the first 6 players.
So the one coming up, and you're 6 man.
Yeah, you're 6 man. So, we mentioned Dubar. You mentioned that in a text message to me last night. Dubar could be a really good 6 man. coming off the bench. But he said if our offense was outstanding in the first 6, I wouldn't worry about depth. But it's not. It's shown that it can be though. It's January and you have a couple months to fix it. But you've shown against good opponents that you can score. I just think that Tennessee's having a little off weeks.
I think
every team goes to it. So
I mean, they're scheming out Chaz. They're trying to take away that 3 from him. That is a fact. Texas was doing that early on, and then they tried to take away Zakai. Teams are kind of noticing what we're doing and trying to taking it away. But you need guys like Ewert to step up. You need him to get his confidence back. Because I heard early in camp, this was the guy that looked like he was going to be our leading scorer for the season. Yeah, he is nothing like what we thought. I mean, he's doing outstanding in terms of rebounding and defense. He's not bad, but just in terms of shooting and what he can give you from the scoring side, he's not really showing that what he showed from you in camp and what your expectations were coming into the year. This guy can really be outstanding, and we need to see it. This guy, if he can just tap into where he was early in camp and be who we thought he was going to be, this team, the ceiling for this team is unreal because he's outstanding. And if Akpar can keep going the track he's on, keep being the guy he's been looking like lately, that can be huge. Along with I mean, the guy, man, I will say the number one problem this game, I mean, you turned it over 3 times more than Texas did. We were sloppy as hell with the ball. Whatever we're doing there, that needs to change. We cannot be this loose. We cannot be passing it this much and out. I am so tired of that lob dunk to Akpar. I can't even tell you. It works about 1 out of every 10 times. And it's just it's like screams desperation in terms of what we're trying on the offensive end. We look out of sync so badly.
I just wish that somebody, the amount of times we pass up wide open dunks and layups, it baffles me. The amount of times that Zakai will go under the basket, circle all the way around. He goes under the basket and there's no one around him. Just lay it in. Lay it in. Like, he does this thing that's the only thing that really agitates me about him. If we didn't have him, we'd be screwed. So, but if there's one critique I do have, that's it. He'll go underneath the basket. There'll be no one around him, and he'll just circle back around and pass it out, and then the shot clock will come down to about 1 seconds. Someone has to lob it up. Just chunk it up there. So that's the only – I think that's the main thing that kills Tennessee. That's their biggest enemy, is they have such a problem hitting point-blank layups and point-blank dunks. I've never seen a team that misses this many layups point-blank, especially Igor. Igor is really bad at that.
Meshack, too.
Meshack and his point-blank layups. You get Meshack on the run and you hand him the ball, he's going up with it. He's going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think we need to push it a little bit more than we do. And, of course, again, we're not coaches, but it's just the eye test. Like, when we push it, we seem to score really pretty easy. It's not very hard for us. But we start passing it around, going around the basket, circling around the whole freaking globe. People start overthinking, and we just – I'm just going to say last night, I texted you this. When Zakai went out of the game, our offense completely changed. We got way more aggressive towards the rim. And I know he's a conductor, but late in that game, he started to do that as well. He started to attack the rim. Attack it. Like, if we could do that the entire game, not the entire game, but in portions and chunks and portions of the game, that offense can be pretty damn good. What Fireval said a minute ago, if your offense was outstanding in the first 6, don't worry about depth, but it's not. That's what he said. If they attack the rim more, it can be scary. That's the thing. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. Man, thank God you won that game. All I can say is, like, because if you lost that one, the vibe, this fan base would be fire and brimstone out the ass right now. It would be bad.
Yeah.
And that's painful. No one needs fire and brimstone in their asshole. It's just it's
no one needs fire up their bunghole.
I
the
don't
fart box.
I don't know where I'm going with this, but it would have been bad, man. In my humble opinion, that's a bad thing, and I would. That is honestly one of my biggest fears of losing is that how annoying our fan base will be after this loss. That is a big thing for me because I just do not want to open this app and see paragraphs about how Barnes will never do anything and yada yada yada. I just it drains me of all just energy.
That is the thing about our fan base. When we lost against Florida, it was the end of the world. This team is not a top 15. I was like, guys, calm the hell down. I am one of the most critical, most judgmental fans that I know. I get angry, I get mad, but dude, that stuff is suffocating, even to me. It's so annoying. It's basketball. You're going to lose games. It's like baseball. You're going to lose games. When you have a long season, a lot of games, you're going to lose. But man, when this fan base loses, like basketball loses, this fan base is off the charts annoying. They think the death is around the corner. Guys, we've lost one game all season. It's fine. It's going to be okay. I promise. It's going to be okay. I promise. And I'm one of the most critical fans there is out there. People hate me for my opinions. They absolutely think I'm the most negative person ever. But man, when we lose one game, holy hell, the world is burning down. It's gonna be fine. We've lost one game, guys. One game.
Let me tell you this: there is no team with more losses than us.
Nope.
Or less losses, however that works. Yeah. There's no team with less losses than us. There's no undefeated teams. We were the last undefeated team.
Yeah. DR comments and says Tennessee fans react to every sport like it's football. One loss in basketball is nothing. Thank you. I've said the same thing, DR, that people act like this is football. You lose one game in these sports, it's not that bad. It's not critical. It's not going to ruin your season. It's not.
We were supposed to lose that game. Not by 30. We were supposed to lose that game. 30 was a bit, man. I will never forget that game, though. That was a horrible game. Oh, my God.
It was terrible.
My dad came in town for that game, and it was just like, I wanted just like a good moment. I just wanted a good little stretch for a second. There was no good stretch. It was just bad. Straight bad. Like it was like we'd have an open layup and just boom, 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 fly off the rim. It was like we throw it up with all the aggressiveness in the world and it wouldn't go in. It was just time and time again. And then you see the numbers. It was literally the worst performance by any team in the last 25 years on the offensive end. And it's like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like the worst game I've ever seen. It just happened to be our team. and you knew when it got down 10, when Tennessee got down 10-0, it was just over. You knew you knew watching. You know how you can watch the beginning of a game and you can kind of just tell it's like this is not going to be our night. There's no digging out of this. Like the Texas game, we were missing shots early, but it wasn't bad. It was just like we're going to start making them, unlike last game, because last game against Florida before Texas, it was just the rhythm. Everything was off. I mean, everything was off. This game, it was more like, okay, the rhythm's more on. We're not making boneheaded, stupid decisions. We just can't. We're not hitting shots early, but we're making some shots. The game against Florida, we weren't making any shots. It was just completely dead.
Yeah, I never want to play a game in this. I mean, we will, but I never want to play a game at Florida again. That place is literally a swimming pool. It smells like chlorine because their arena is in the same facility as their swimming team, and the whole arena smells like chlorine. It's the worst arena. I've been there. It's the worst arena in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Lifelong comments. I think many, and this I love this take right here. Lifelong says, I think many Tennessee fans take emotional tweeting during game way too serious. That is the dead's honest truth. You're in the. That's what Twitter is. It's a constant chat room for all those 80s and 90s babies that remember AOL chat rooms. Twitter is a constant chat room of constant comments flowing in. And Lifelong, you are spot on when you say many Tennessee fans take emotional tweeting during the game way too serious. You can tweet something. I do it all the time. You tweet your emotions out. And then like the game will be over, like, this didn't age well. Like, that's the stupidest comment ever. Of when you say something like, oh, he's having a terrible game, and he'll hit like the game-winning shot. Like, this is the worst take ever, you dumbass. I'm like, during that moment, it was not the worst take. It was the truth. It's a truthful comment that happened. So
yeah,
man, that is perfectly said, Lifelong. Perfectly said.
It preserves your quick judgments. It preserves like your emotion. That it's kind of crazy that this is something we do. Yeah. Let's talk about something. Well, we won. That's what's most important here. Tennessee did not lose 2 straight. Because we're a good program. We're a good team with a good program, and we came out and got the W. But let's talk about a not so good program and not so good team, and that's the Arkansas Razorbacks, who suffered their 3rd straight loss in conference play. I mean, 2, I'll give it, the Florida Gators, who are really tough to beat, let me tell you. Personally, but Arkansas, holy crap, things are not going good with old Coach Cal and Kenny Payne out there in the Diamond State. I don't even know what they're called. What do you think about that?
Arkansas? Yeah. I proposed a question to start the podcast. Should Arkansas hit the panic button on Calipari? What's your take on that?
Yeah, hit the panic button. Yeah. Well, here's my thing. Why did you think this would work?
No.
The man had been at Kentucky where he had every resource known to man. I mean, there's not a program in the entire country where you have more resources to be great at basketball than the University of Kentucky. There's not one. If you are screwing it up there, and I'll give it, they got to the tournament every year, and they just screwed up there. But still, he hadn't been producing good enough results to please Kentucky fans. Why would you think he'd make you happy? Calipari, there's no one more behind the game than John Calipari. There's no one more stuck in their ways than John Calipari. John Calipari knows what John Calipari knows, and John Calipari ain't knowing anything else anymore. He's done. He knows what he knows, and he's going to stick with that until he retires. Until people are done giving him millions upon millions of dollars to coach basketball. This is where this is going. This is where this is always going. They might make a tournament. They might be an 11 seed or something like that. But you're never winning a damn thing with him again, because he will not adjust to the game. Rick Barnes, all the criticism in the world for Rick Barnes sometimes, but you can't deny this. He is completely adjusted to the modern game of basketball.
He has.
He's in terms of tempo, in terms of advanced defense, advanced stats. I mean, by the numbers, Tennessee's always been one of the most efficient teams in the country under Barnes since 2019. And he's completely adjusted. And Calipari, he's the exact opposite of that spectrum. All Calipari knows is going back to what he knows best and try to make that work. Here's what John Calipari did back in the day. He take the best players in the country and win with them. That's what he knew how to do. And now the game's kind of changed where you don't want 18-year-olds, you want 22-year-olds, you want to use the portal, and he does use the portal, but he doesn't use it as well as others. He doesn't identify talent that well. He's never gonna. I mean, he paid Jonas Adu, I think, over $1 million or something. Maybe not that much, but close to $1 million.
Let's do it.
You're out of your goddamn mind if you're paying that man that much to play basketball.
Mr. Sunshine, not to switch gears here, but we'll go back to the Calipari thing because I want to talk about it some more. I want you to get your take on this, Austin. I want you to get your take on this. Mr. Sunshine says there will be more losses, which will happen. This conference is insane this year. I'd say we're looking at putting at least 8 teams into the NCAA tournament. I want you to comment on that.
Right, 12.
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to comment on that real quick, and I'll be right back.
We were looking at more losses. This is I don't think it's arguably. I think this is the greatest conference in the history of college basketball in terms of coming to a season. This is the toughest league you'll ever see. Right now, we're playing Georgia in TBA. This feels like an off game. This feels like, okay, we can breathe a little bit. We're at home against a team we should beat, unranked. Georgia, actually, they might be ranked because they just beat Oklahoma. They beat the crap out of Oklahoma. I think they won another conference game, and they only took one loss in non-con play. And that's the bottom of the league right there. This is or near the bottom. Georgia, and that's a team that will get into the dance probably, and it might be ranked in the next polls. Look at this freaking conference. There is no weak team. Arkansas looks very weak right now, and I just went on a huge rant criticizing Calipari for being behind the game, but at the same time, he will get enough talent to maybe sneak into the dance and win some games at home because he does still get a lot of talent being John Calipari. This league is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You said 8 teams into the tournament.
Yes.
I would say definitely more than 8. I would put it at 10 minimum. 13, I would say 13 or 12 probably. That's where I'd say my expectations are in teams against the dance. I mean, Texas, I'd say they're out right now after the loss they took to us. But who's out? Who's out of the tournament right now? Texas, South Carolina, LSU,
Arkansas. Are they out?
No, they're in the bracket right now. I think.
Okay.
They're barely in.
I'm talking about towards season's end. Because we just talked about Calipari, how it's like you just said basketball's passed him by. And I agree with you. But does he have enough talent to get in? Because
I'd say so.
Putting that's almost like 14 teams that's going to get in right there. If you could adding all of them, that's almost the whole freaking league. So you think they're going to allow that many in?
I mean, how do you not? Here's the thing: like they say, if they're judging it how they say they're going to judge it, then we should get that many teams in. If you say it's based on that, based on strength schedule, based on Ken Palm, all that stuff, then they should let that many teams in. I know that's a lot. I understand it sounds like a lot, isn't it? And it is a lot. But if you really want the best 68 teams in the field, then yes, there should be 13 teams from the SEC in the field, in my opinion. Missouri and Vandy, I'd say are both in. Ole Miss looks great right now. Mississippi State definitely in. Alabama, Auburn, obviously, are going to be at least, I think they're looking at 1 and 2 seeds. Georgia's in. Florida's definitely in. Tennessee's in, obviously, and Kentucky's in. This is a ridiculously the teams that are LSU and South Carolina are out right now. South Carolina really could have made it interesting. They could have pulled the upset over Auburn yesterday, but they didn't. So they're out, and Texas is out. Right now, I'd say there's only 3 teams in the SEC that are outside the bracket right now. It is by far the most stacked and packed league you've ever seen. And what's crazy? Like when you think of great conferences in basketball, first one historically that comes to mind is the Atlantic Coast Conference.
ACC.
Yeah, the ACC. That is the most dumpster fire league I've ever seen in my life.
It's switched because ACC used to be the most insane, dominant conference, and now the SEC is it's switched quickly. Like it wasn't a slow buildup of switching from the ACC to the SEC. The ACC went down quick, and the SEC rose up real fast. And it's playing. We are the new ACC. It's switched because you have Duke and you have North Carolina. That's Miami.
Miami has 4 wins.
It's that exactly. Miami used to be. It's crazy how it's switched, and I feel like the NIL has a lot to do with that because now you're seeing it's like you're seeing in football now. NIL is making everything more even. People keep saying the SEC is like a dumpster fire of conference in football. No, it's just even now. The NIL's made it even. It's not. They haven't fallen off. It's like Alabama and Georgia. Take Georgia football, for example. They haven't fallen off. They're really good. It's just become a more even playing field because NIL is making that effect on everything, which is why there's so many teams in basketball and so many teams in football that seem to be real equal when it comes to conference play and all of that. It's NIL has really changed the landscape of being even.
I don't think it's equal. I don't think it's equal.
I do.
I think the SEC just pays more than everyone else. That's what I think's happening. I've heard that from a lot of people. The SEC is where the money is, because if we sink our teeth into a sport, we want it. And we want it more than everyone else. It appears that way. I mean, I'll say North Carolina, they do pay, and Louisville pays, but it's just they're also kind of a mess.
What I'm saying is there's going to be a jump in one conference that has the most money, but eventually it's going to even out. It's not going to stay like this. It's going to be like the Big Ten. Remember at the beginning of the season, everyone the says the Big Ten's equal to the SEC, and everyone laughed.
Basketball?
No, I'm sorry, football. Everyone in the country was like the Big Ten is equal to the SEC, and everyone's laughed at that. Well, I mean, it was pretty damn close to being even. Pretty damn close. And that's the NIL. And right now, the SEC is taking the jump in NIL, but I think that'll even out. I think it will because you got teams like Florida State, you got teams like Miami, you got teams like I don't know how the hell Ohio State's so bad at basketball, but
there's a lot of teams. There's so many teams in college basketball. You're like, how the hell are you not good?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Syracuse, good God, Syracuse hasn't been relevant in like 7 years. It feels like.
I feel like Syracuse hasn't been really relevant since.
Bill knows a dumpster fire right now. Xavier, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's okay right now. Kansas is good. Okay.
But you're gonna have all these. Me and you were talking about this not that long ago. The AAC, that conference in basketball, a couple years ago was legit. They had Memphis, Cincinnati, UConn. Was it
Houston?
UConn? Houston. They had SMU. They had just a mountain of talent there. But guess what happened? All those big schools, they went to bigger conferences with more money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where the landscape of college football and college basketball and all that stuff's going. They're going to spread out, and you're going to have these, like people have said, you're going to have these major conferences, these super conferences, because that's where all the money's at. And it's headed in that direction. So these lower league conferences are going to eventually become irrelevant and screwed, and they're not going to be able to do anything. So that's why the SEC is getting so big. I guarantee you the Big Ten and stuff like that, it's going to happen. Like they're going to be super conferences.
I will say there's a bit of I feel like we have better coaching in these in the SEC right now. You look at Syracuse is bad. Well, that was a guy who was their coach. I can't think of his name, but he took over after Boeheim retired, and he was the chosen successor. He never had been a coach before, I don't believe. So you didn't have the success. Like I just don't ever believe in that. I don't ever believe in naming your successor. That never seems to work out in college basketball, football, anything. Hardly ever. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it never works out, and it's just going to mess things up. You never want a coach in waiting kind of situation. That's just hire me someone that's proven to be good. That's what I always want to do. So I'd say that's the problem with Syracuse. Louisville, I don't know how that. Well, Pat Kelsey, it's year one for him, and he's doing okay actually. They're looking up actually, I'd say, and that was a good hire from College of Charleston. But before Chris Mack, I don't know how Chris Mack didn't succeed there. He was great at Xavier. He had Xavier as like a top 4 seed, it seemed like every single season, and he just could never get any ground there at Louisville. And then they hired Kenny Payne, which was, I think, the worst coach in the history of college basketball. That's been the mess that was Cincinnati. And then Leonard Hamilton, he's just at Florida State. He had it running there for a minute there, and then they just kind of fell off the map. He he's really not just the NIL game. I think he's being sued by like 5 of his foreign players for not paying on NIL. And then Larranaga just retired at Miami because he's getting fed up with the NIL BS. It's just it's a mess in the ACC, and I mean, it's why Roy Williams. I mean, he literally said that's why he stepped away. This isn't the game he grew up loved. He grew up coaching, or this isn't the game he loved. What he was dealing with, he just didn't want to deal with that same kind of thing. Nick Saban said, at his age, he didn't want to deal with it anymore.
And that's what I think that's so accurate, because coaches can't be coaches anymore.
Mm-mm.
Because you can't coach anyone, because the next thing you know, they're leaving. And then on with the next kid. It is just, they come in, they don't like what you're doing, they're not getting enough playing time, they're gone. So what's the point of trying to coach them? Because it's one of those things. You can't be a coach anymore. It's a lot of one and outs, and I'm transferring, I'm crying like a baby, and all this stuff. I want more money. Like, yeah, has NIL ruined football and basketball? I don't think so. But I can see where coaches are getting. I think it's more fun for the viewer when you have this going down every year, because you don't know who's going to win it all. It's going to be insane every year. You're not going to have the same team, I think, every single year that's going to win it all every year, because you had Georgia before all the NIL really started to go into effect in football. They were going to be a juggernaut, and then everything evened out, and they weren't.
Man, I agree.
Yeah, it's a wild thing to see. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Who is your top 5 in the SEC right now?
Football or basketball?
Basketball.
Top 5?
That's pretty.
Auburn, Florida, Tennessee. After that, it's just kind of that's tough. But those are my top 3: Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, in that order. But if Auburn has the player that just went out, that's a big. He's a high ankle sprain. That's a big deal. High ankle sprains are big deals.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know he's fought through some of it. That ankle is always giving him trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be interesting if he can come back from this. We play them on the 25th of January. That could really affect that, even though that's going to be a hard game regardless. But I would agree with that top 3. Auburn, Florida, Tennessee. I will say it. I don't know. I'd say Florida is probably better. I know they should be by 30, but I think we'll probably beat them in TBA. And it'll be interesting to see who has a better season. But I'll agree that top 3 for the moment. 4, I mean, you got to go Alabama. They've really responded well since they had their early season struggles. They beat the living hell out of Oklahoma and got a win at number 10 Texas A&M this weekend. Yes, forget his name. Taylor, the 4th, wasn't playing. The 4th-year player who's been A&M for 8,000 years.
Taylor the 4th.
From
Queens, Quebec, New Jersey.
And first game without him in a long time. So that was, you got to put a little asterisk next to that win Alabama just had. And then 5, I mean, Kentucky looks really freaking good. They got some scores.
I am not putting any. Okay. Kentucky's good. They can score. Their defense is trash.
Yeah.
Trash. And that's the exact same thing they had last season. They had some good scores, and their defense was garbage. Garbage. Mm-hmm. Trash. You can't win that way. You just can't. It's what Tennessee had Josh Heupel in the 2022 season, where Tennessee had that unstoppable offense. They had no defense, and people were like, "This is no one team in the country." No, they're not. They're not. They're simply just not.
I think there's a number out there that no team or every team that's won a national title in the last, I think, 25 years has been top 20 in offense and defense on KenPom. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Kentucky's nowhere close to the top 20 in defense.
No, their defense is terrible.
It's. I mean, they're a young team. Here's my thing. Okay, I think that will improve because if you look at the numbers, he did have a good defensive team at BYU his last year there, Mark Pope. So I do think they'll adjust. It is a year one, and I'm sure it's just they're just trying to get the most out they can of this team. And hell, they have a great resume. They beat Duke, they beat Mississippi State on the road, and they have a hell of a resume. They have a really bad loss to Ohio State somehow, but
okay. So what's
I don't
our
think this team will go deep, but.
So people are saying Kentucky's better than Tennessee. So check our resume. We have a win against Illinois on the road and a win against Texas on the road.
A neutral over BYU or BYU Baylor.
Baylor, top 15 team at the time.
Yeah.
People say that narrative's getting old. Who have you played? You haven't played nobody. Yeah, we have. Shut up. We have. Stop.
And that 20-point win over Louisville looks better. They keep bettering their resume. That's not a quad one win. Yeah, we got a good resume. I think we're
pretty solid.
I think in terms of
two quad one wins,
strength of record, we're top 15.
Mm-hmm. We are.
I mean, I really wish we just played better against Florida. That's the only complaint I have on the whole season. I'm not saying you had to beat Florida. I just wish you would have showed up.
But here's the thing:
lost by 20, maybe lose by 20.
I get it, but that's not going to come back to bite you. It's just not. That loss is not going to come back to bite you. It's going to do nothing. It's going to everyone's when it comes to push, comes to shove at the very end of the season, they're going to look at your wins. Florida is not a bad loss. I know you got killed by them, but they're just going to look at it. Oh, they lost against Florida. That's what they're going to look at. They're going to be like, well, we're going to keep Tennessee out of the tournament because they lost by Florida by 30. That's not how they look at it. They look at wins and losses, where you won, where you lost. Tennessee has two of the most solid wins on the road right now, especially Illinois, because you talk about Ken Pom and all those. What's the other one about the Illinois? How they're like top 3, top 4
net
rankings, and Tennessee has one of the most impressive, according to them, one of the most impressive road wins this season at Illinois.
I haven't checked the adjusted numbers, but that may have taken a hit because I did watch Illinois lose at home to a pretty bad USC team yesterday. So I don't know.
But again, it's basketball. Like you're going to lose games in horrible fashion. You're going to lose games to teams you're not supposed to. You're going to have teams like Middle Tennessee that gave us trouble. It's basketball. That's how basketball goes. It's not like football where you just have so much more talent. You run over people. Basketball, you can have way more talent, but you could just have an off night, a horrible night.
Okay. Do you think Tennessee wins the next 3 games? They are at home against Georgia.
Yes.
On the road at Vandy, and at home against Mississippi State.
They won all 3 of those.
Okay. I agree.
Mississippi State has to come. If we had to go to the hump, that would scare me. If we had to go down to Mississippi State in the hump, that would scare me. But they're coming here. Georgia's coming here. Vandy's pretty good this year.
That's a tricky one.
That's a tricky one, but
you got to show up.
Yeah, you got to show up. I still think we beat them.
I agree.
I still think.
But I'll say it could kind of be like the game we just had in Austin. You need to pull that one out. It might be a guts. You have to have a little gutsy performance. Okay, then you get back to the nitty gritty. Okay,
Auburn.
The 3 following that at number 2 Auburn, soon to be number 1 Auburn, at home against Kentucky, and at home against Florida. What's the record in those 3 ball games?
I said this last week when we kind of went through this vaguely. I think we go down to Auburn. I think we beat Auburn. That's just a niche for me. It's one of those games when Tennessee has to show up and play big boy ball. They always do. I think they beat Auburn. You think I'm crazy?
That's psychotic.
How is it psychotic? How is it psychotic?
After watching
one of their best
Florida
players just went out.
I will say Florida is the one atmosphere that's kind of similar to Auburn, where the fans are on top of you and you can't even think. And it's like
Florida has a different style. I told you before the Florida game.
I agree.
I told you last week before the Florida game that game worries me because of matchups.
If we win that game, I will run butt naked somewhere.
Somewhere
Location. Maybe about living room. Actually, now that
to be determined.
I put these words out here.
Oh, you put them. Oh, we got it. To be determined. It's my choice. My choice of where you do it. My choice of where Austin.
I will get a lawyer here. And
a lawyer. You can't afford a lawyer.
You went to law school, right? Right.
Bear, your dog. Look over. You went to law school, Bear, right?
He has a tie on. Attorney Paul.
Your dog has like a little bow tie. And he's just sitting there. It's like, I will defend you.
Mm-hmm.
Bark, bark.
Talk.
Dr. Chubbs said
Auburn naked like you.
Dr. Chubbs said Auburn's going to kill us. I don't know, man. Tennessee does these things in big games. Okay, I'm the only one that has confidence in this game.
Yeah.
What are the next two? And then we're going to move on to the college football
national championship. Okay, at home, midweeker against Kentucky, and
midweeker.
And then
midweek,
a 12 Eastern start against the Gators. Revenge spot.
That's tough. I still think we beat Auburn. I think we go to Auburn to beat them. I think Kentucky we perform pretty well in midweek games. We seem to perform pretty well in midweek games. Last year we had the Auburn game midweek, and that was just a freaking madhouse in there. That was the loudest I've heard Thompson Bowling in a really long time during that game. Me and you will both be at the Kentucky game.
I have a theory.
Yep.
We are louder in midweek games because less of the buttoned-up types go to those games. You get more of a blue-collar crowd that gets off work, and they just are ready to lose their mind.
Yeah, they get off work, and they're stressed about the day, and they grab beer and just sit there and watch basketball and lose their minds. Yeah. Agree with that. So I'm going to say we're going to take care of Kentucky. I'm saying we're going to take care of Auburn. Call me crazy. I think we're going to take care of Kentucky as well. I don't know about Florida.
I think we're beating Florida. That'll be a revenge spot. We'll be focused, and that place will be absolutely insane. I don't think I've seen us lose an early game in TBA since that ugly-ass game against Kentucky. It's just, I think we'll win. I think we're going undefeated at home. I don't think we're losing a home game all year. I'm going to put that out there. And we got 3 straight home games. After that, we go at home against Mizzou, at Arkansas. I just clicked something and lost the schedule. At Texas. Then we have a stretch where, we're at LSU. I kind of like that. I like being on the road against a bad team. That place be dead than the doorknob. 9 p.m. Yeah, we got a midweeker against Kentucky after OU. That's a tough spot.
All right.
Let's
close this out. National championship. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Tweeted out earlier. Why in the hell does Tennessee always have to get matched up in every tournament with the juggernaut of the tournament? But also I have a question. Why can't Tennessee ever be that juggernaut? Why can't Tennessee ever be the hot team that gets hot? It's always someone else, never Tennessee. But again, Tennessee always has to match up with the hottest team around, and it's very annoying. Ohio State came in as a 8 seed and has just destroyed everyone in their path. Yeah. So you got Notre Dame. You said Notre Dame was going to win the whole thing before the tournament even started, the bracket even started.
I did.
You did. I don't think it was win.
Ohio State's going to kick their ass, but I did say that. Yes, I did. And here's what I also said. I think I picked us to beat Ohio State, but I did say in the midst of all that talking that it does frighten me that Ohio State has probably more talent than any team in the country, and they were told for 2 weeks how they weren't good at football. That did scare me, and I think the whole nation's reaping the wrath of that. I think this was the best team in the country all season long, and they just never performed like it. And then they had a moment where they really got told they weren't good and had to be just like shoved in the corner and just like hated by everyone, including their fan base, their administrators. Everyone hated them. It felt like that Ohio State team, and they kind of just like turned around and played like who they are. I think they're the most talented team in the country, and they're going to beat Notre Dame. But also, if Notre Dame somehow wins that game, I will come on this podcast and talk about how much of a genius I am for saying Notre Dame's going to win it all. You gotta give me credit there. Everyone said Notre Dame wasn't worth a damn, and they've been pretty damn good.
I'll just fall back to say we're beating Ohio State, so I'll fall back on that one.
Hey, you said we were beating Ohio State, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
but I was just trying to ensue confidence in our fan base in the world. I was trying to put it out there in the universe. But Freeman, Notre Dame's coach Freeman, I really do like him. It's really hard not to like him.
Oh, he's a great guy.
And people hate Notre Dame. They hate him with a passion, but I really like Freeman. I like the guy a lot. So, but yeah, I got Ohio State winning as well. I pray that Notre Dame wins. I know DR's at Notre Dame just can't stand them.
What is that? I don't really get
I don't
that.
know. But it's probably because they're overranked every season coming in for like the last decade and plus. They come in as like a top 10 team every year. What was
I thought it had something to do with the Catholic Church.
Well, it's like a couple. It was like 5 years ago when they what was that? They had like the worst record they've had in 40 years, and they came in as a top 10 ranked team. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And so Notre Dame comes in as a top 10 ranked team again this year. They lose to Northern Illinois, and now all the people that vote them that high, like, see, I told you so. See, I told you after 15 years, we told you so. It only took 15 years of us putting them in the top 10. So that's probably why people get pissed off about Notre Dame being in the top 10 every year, because they've underachieved every single effing year. And speaking of years, closing on this, 15 years ago, Lane Kiffin left the University of Tennessee. 15 years ago to this date, January the 12th, he left the University of Tennessee. Do you remember that? Do you remember that happening?
Yes, I do. I remember watching ESPN and then saying that, and I was like, why are we on ESPN? The season's over. And, we're, what? And honestly, I wasn't like a veteran football fan at the time. I kind of didn't know what was happening. And I kind of thought, why? Well, this is weird. I asked my dad, and I was like, what? Lane Kiffin left? What? Like, it's just, it was really a surreal moment. Like, no one can ever forget where they were when that happened. And to this day, I don't think there's any more weird things ever happened here. I mean, we had Shiana Sunday, but it's just I think that happening to a fan base and it really like almost traumatizes you in a weird way where you can never like trust anything. It's such a phenomenon that kind of thing can actually happen. But and boy, oh boy, did our program spiral. And then this arrogant asshole has the balls come into our stadium and fake 8,000 injuries. and then we threw a golf ball at him. He traumatized me. Go to hell.
Yeah. You sent our whole program into a spiral.
You're lucky it's just a golf ball, asshole. The ball on you. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with the Tennessee schedule that we predicted.
We're never losing a game. I don't care.
We're never losing. If we do, our fans will riot.
We will tear everything down. We will go in with pitchforks and flames into on the campus. Yeah, we will raise Cain.
All right, man. Good podcast, good viewership, good comments, interaction from all of our people. It was fun, man.
It was fun.
We will do it again next week. And we will see all you knuckleheads, you chuckle nuts next week.
Cheers.
Peace out. Good night. Go Vols. God bless. Yes.